has for a little moment just decided I'd take a little break for a while from those hardwood coyotes, and we talked a little bit while about how we were kind of needing some more nativities for upcoming Christmas shows, so did kind of get a decision to get some stuff out from which to work on a few more of those and get a few more made. So I think I've already kind of demonstrated on a video in the past how we kind of make these things and go about it. I might do a little bit of that here just to kind of give y'all little reminders, but I do also just kind of want to say that there's probably going to be some random things to talk about while we do this, and this is how I kind of make my work a little better for me, is by coming on to tell a little stuff about it and tell a little about what I do and do a little bit about what I share and show you all just a little power in my work. And I tell y'all little things where sometimes, the way I talk about how I've been kind of sick over the past week and the past 2 weekends, and how it was just one of those times where I've been kind of doing a lot for myself to try to get a little better, and for these last few days that I'm still trying to get over the cough and the little bit of congestion, just got out my neti pot again to kind of use that a little bit. Hopefully that'll kind of get my sinuses a little cleared up and a little better. That's the kind of thing we have to use. The things I find out about that is how they tell you on the thing not to use tap water. And, whoa, I tell y'all so many stories I've heard on the internet about little things that have happened. Somebody getting a brain-eating amoeba from a neti pot before. All the little scary little things I've heard can happen. And I tell y'all something, people, you just never know how some kids are. The way some things you tell them can scare them. I mean, there's a lot of reason I don't talk to my niece that much, and she's upstairs right now, just always afraid little things I might talk to her about might get her a little scared now and then, and we don't really need her getting all scared and worrying about things, because she gets upset real easily. So it's just the kind of thing where we kind of have to be more cautious with ourselves and be cautious with others. And I'd say for this little work here, we can always hope for this trade to get the worst of these little shavings, but it won't get all of them. And I say sometimes I pray and feel like I want to be out in the places again, but have those moments where Lord kind of speaks up and tells me, if you're in these places tonight, you won't enjoy it that much. Sometimes I feel like there's places I'd like to be, people I'd like to be with at times, and, just kind of the ways it gets a little rough here and there as far as just how that goes, and, all the ways you just kind of have to give yourself a little balance now and then as far as where you're going to be, what you're going to be out doing, and things like that. And so that is just the places where my little extra bit of caution comes in. And for quite a few nights I've been out exercising on the town and at the gym, and come to think of it, that reminds me of one more thing. I think I'm going to stop this just long enough to go up and move my laundry from the washer to the dryer. I think that's where it needs to be now. I would like to share that fortunately I got up, took care of that. Just long as I pause the video here, didn't take too long, but I'll say that there's little ways to go about this. It's been helping me a lot just to kind of get my gym exercises I really needed. Sometimes I feel like I've learned that it's not good for you to be out every night at Starbucks drinking frappuccinos or be out restaurants eating restaurant food every night. So I'd say that there are times when just for things my doctor would suggest, I might need to fast a little bit or exercise a little bit just to kind of get myself in the proper shape that I need to be in. So that's just how we have worked along with that. I will say as we come along this way, we are just making things come out a little bit better as we go, and thinking that we might even make this a little bit of a carving challenge for us on this video here. Think I might kind of make a few videos where I talk about these as I work into them, and unfortunately would say that it could be a little while longer on the coyotes. I'll tell you about those little spotted holly doves that I showed you all that I carved. It kind of happened that I already sent them out to the lady who ordered them, and she sort of contacted me back, and I will tell you all above all things that she's got a lot going on, but she'll be writing me a money order for those. There's kind of some people that I allow to do that because, you know, it's like PayPal and Venmo and Cash App are the kinds of things that don't really work the same for everybody. And this one lady, she's even legally blind to that matter, so that was just what a little bit of her trouble was, and how it comes out to being what she needs and what she does. I say that it's just kind of a little work that she has in herself to see brighter days coming. Oh, and I tell y'all something, people, sometimes, you know, we just like to share our faith too. There was a lot of faith to share when it came to this, and I think it always helps me. Sometimes I kind of put things out there as a little advertisement of some sort, try to get a little work and art out there just so people can kind of see what I make. And that's just the kind of thing where I enjoy showing my abilities to people. I'd say sometimes the way work can come along, that's how I get more followers in life, and how I get more people to follow my pages in life, and how I kind of always have a chance to try to get to know more people the more places I go in life. And I'll just kind of say of all things that there's just some steps that on these things where we just have to go back and look in a book just to remind ourselves which steps to take first. I told this lady I could understand her legal blindness because it's kind of how it was with my grandmother when she was on the earth. She couldn't see too well. We took her to the grocery to help her with her groceries because she couldn't see too good. And, you know, I mean, sometimes she even had to have a little magnifying glass with her to kind of read her books and the newspapers and things, and sometimes it even helped her just to kind of listen to stories audibly about people and things, because it could be hard for her to read given her conditions, and some things we might have even had to read to her from a distance or something. Sometimes I look back, I tell y'all, I was young, I was in my early 20s at the time, and sometimes with her, sometimes didn't always practice my best patience, but look back, think it's things I regret, but you know, you just learn little things in life, and then people, they get a little elderly, and sometimes eyesight can get to be a tough thing here and there, and sometimes I'm not always aware of people's conditions, but didn't want to take advantage of people. I'd say, like when I was 24 and working downstairs washing dishes in a hospital, and every Sunday we'd have a service in the chapel there, and there was a man who was there as a visitor with a sick wife who was a patient in the hospital, and in those days my ministry was to hand out cassette tapes and CDs of music I recorded. I carried a lot of cassette tapes in my pocket to work those days because that was what I gave out around there. And sometimes it was CDs as well that I sort of gave out to people in my own department. But as I went over to the chapel service over there, I'd carry cassette tapes over there, sometimes CDs, and there was a man in there, the man I just told you about, kind of older visitor, sick wife as a patient, and he attended the chapel service there, where I would go and attend the chapel service on my little break while I worked there, and so that was kind of what I took my break for, and handed him my little cassette tape I had there, and he made a donation. Sometimes people do make donations, but in my point of view, I thought he was kind of giving me a little bit too much of a donation, but he wasn't aware how much it was. I said, "Sir, you don't have to donate me this much." He asked me, "How much is it?" It was $43. It was 2 20s and 3 1s, and so I told him what it was, and he says, "Well, that is a bit much." And I said, "Well, I'll tell you what I'll do." I said, "I'll hand you the 2 20s back, and I'll hold on to the 3 1s. How's that?" So it all just kind of worked for the better in that situation, and I just learned, have people tell me how good it was that they thought of the fact that I didn't want to take advantage of somebody like that, because I've heard some of the pitiful, shameful stories of the fact that there are some people who will. Sometimes, elderly people can be out at Walmart or somewhere, and it can be so easy to steal their wallet, I've heard. I once heard of a missionary. He's actually in heaven now, but in the work my dad was the secretary with, he took that old missionary to Walmart while he was alive, and the very thing that happened right there in the store was his wallet got stolen. So they had to find out who it was and track them down and contact them, because sometimes that's what they'll do with elderly and disabled people. And when you talk about little things happening like wallets getting stolen, I mean, well, I gotta say, when I was about 24, I was out at the public pool one day with a couple of fanny packs in there, one that had my wallet and stuff in it, another that had cassette tapes in it I was handing out to the lifeguards as a gift of the ministry. And when I came back and noticed my wallet was missing, it was sure enough a little theft incident. So we reported it, got it taken care of. Of course, I got a new wallet and new driver's license and everything that needed to be in it. And I'd say once it finally just really came down to it, it turned out that about a year later, that wallet with some of the stuff still in it was sent to me in the mail. from the city government. So thankfully we get little issues like that taken care of when we can. Think I've probably got it somewhere saved away as a souvenir or an old sentiment or something like that. Don't know the truth about it. But as for now, I say all the ways things have changed since COVID. That's kind of why there's probably things these days I'd much rather be doing on video than be going out places doing it in person anyway. Because there were times, I'd say before COVID, when I used to be able to go out and talk to the young people about the good old days in places. Even at that time, I'd go out to a gym in Richmond where I'd go out just to kind of see some friends, and met a few people out there, and even talked to some people out in those places. A few of them have remained my friends to this day and continued to be my friends on social media. And then there's some of them who, might have gone completely out of touch. And, it's one of those things in life where friends just come and friends just go. They don't always last forever. They'll come in temporarily and they will come and they'll go. I say for this little time now, I've gotten these steps along, and this little step here, that's the one thing where when we make Mary and Joseph, we just have to notice there's a little bit of a difference there in just the way that their hands and arms come out. But that's been a big trial and error thing for me for so many years, because I tell you, I've done Mary and Joseph both at the same time for so many years, tried to carve all of them at once, and sometimes just going about the same little step with both of them, there'd be a little thing you'd forget as far as what you're supposed to do differently on one than you did on another. And nevertheless, a lot of people who didn't know the pattern didn't know the difference, so they never cared much. They just bought it anyway as it was. And there's probably no telling how many of these nativities like this I've sold already, and how many of those shepherds and lambs I've sold as well. And little stories we have to share along the way. Sometimes I think there's things I might be doing after Christmas that I don't know yet or I'm going to do, but they could all just come along, be like things you see when it comes time to do them. And for this little place here, I say we're going to start carving along one of these little Josephs here. Try to take along away all the little excess wood that comes off this little corner of him here. And of all things, I say that this is just one of the challenges I enjoy in my life, because this is some of the work I've demonstrated before, how I come on here and do, and just wanted to kind of come on, say some words while I chipped away. And for times like this, I say there's a lot of times coming up, a lot of funny stories I'd be sharing with my friends through the email messages. Sometimes I don't always carve the correct way. Sometimes I kind of saw a little bit with the knife. You're not really supposed to be doing that, but when it gets to the point that you're doing that, you probably ought to sharpen the knife. But that's one little thing I don't often think to do. And these days, I tell you, my job is less stressful than it used to be, so there's not much carving I do in the mornings before work anymore. just come up here, play some music, and get a little bit relaxed before I feel like it's time to go in. And as for me, you know, I'm only part-time, only work a 3-hour day because of my special needs and because of my government benefits. But there's things that we see that we work along this way, and then we're going to try to kind of work this little time away here and see how I try to do it a little bit further out, where it's kind of a little bit more over the pan and away from my clothes. That way more of the chips can fall in the pan and not fall on my clothes and have to be brushed off where they otherwise fall on the floor or something. So I'd say for the work to come along this way, we've got to make our way about what we do, make our way about what we see, make our way about what we have. And I say this little work is just all good for you and me, and finally worth it, finally taking my time, finally giving in. I'd say that there's probably certain steps we're going to take along here that we might do for this one and might save for the next challenge. So this little way that we go about this, it's just, how about we just take it a little further down the line and then finally get it where we have these nice flat corners here, and we got little chips to pick up here out of the way to throw in the little pan, take care of the little matters here. Think I'm gonna take the little corners off of this last little Joseph here and kind of see what it's going to measure up to in the end when we get all this together, get it all worked out, get it all taken care of, and all the things we see in life that measure up to us when we get past our working points. For a little work that we do, it's just kind of immeasurable success, I say. And all things we do in life, it's all going to be a little ways coming along. And I say that there's going to be more of these corners to be flattened out sooner or later. I guess we'll probably can be working on some shepherds and lambs in a later video. Maybe even get a chance to work on a camel, to that matter. There was a certain lady who was my mom's good friend, and I made a camel for her last year, and she bought it from me. It was just a good little portion of cost for what we have and what we do and all the work we put into our stuff. And I'm always enjoying this kind of work, making business go this way, seeing how further along my little ways shall come to be in life. And oh, I say that this is just one little step that we take. Always thought nativities were neat. There was one that I made out of the scroll saw when I was like 19, and it was one that eventually I kind of threw it out because it got all covered in sawdust and wasn't good anymore. But one little special thing about that one is that I used some old pieces of carpet to make the fur on the camels. That was just because it was some tan carpet, and thought it would make good little camel skin, to say the least. And would say that sometimes I think carpet is good for crafts, but You know, there comes times when I think as I come across it on the side of the road, it often looks to me like it just comes in such big, heavy rolls, and sometimes it would be hard to have a lot of carpet down in the shop because it would kind of just be a big cumbersome piece of mess sometimes that probably never would get around to using. But if it came along in little smaller pieces, there's probably more of it I'd be using. Just got a little step to take here. Soon it will be the end of this challenge video. As we get the rest of this carving done out, we're getting rid of what we don't need as far as the scraps are concerned. As far as flattening the head goes, seeing how this little job can make a little brighter story to you and to me, and make it so we're seeing brighter images, brighter images. Oh, and I say that there's probably been a lot I've heard from stories over the years, and you know, so much that's been said, so much that's been done, so much that's been known. And to think about all those excited shepherds, you know, when baby Jesus was born. And I think nativities have been a special thing to people in their life. I have a friend who posted yesterday how she was out in this place with her children, and she bought this nativity that was from the Holy Land, that was carved out of olive wood. She says it wasn't cheap, but not as expensive as others she's seen. She bought that, and because her daughter picked it out and chose it, and her daughter has never stopped playing with it. I think that was probably one of the sweetest things I've ever seen. It's just kind of the thing that makes its way to us. Oh, little things we're going to see in life and knowledge we're going to have. Oh, kind works, blessed works. I think that we're working our way about this to kind of flatten out this last little corner of the square at the top and make it so he's going to be a wonderful little something of a critter. And after this, we're probably going to be taking some time to sharpen these knives up a little bit, because I do think it's getting to the point where that's getting to be about what they're needing. So as for this little work here, we got to show a little grace to ourselves and grace to our work, and all the power we show to those around us in the need of us and what we do and how we do it, and little times in little lives and little shares. I say grace comes to us all in such the mighty, mighty, powerful, different ways we do. I say grace is measured, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. I say, and by the way, we're about to get done with this here. About to kind of put this away. And there's another step we took with Mary that we'll take on Joseph next time. And want to come back on and show it to you when the time comes for me to do so. Thank you again for watching, and take care.